Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of As the Wheel Turns. We are cutting a Montana Sapphire. It's a mint green. I have already cut the pavilion and polished it, redopped it, transferred it, and now I'm cutting the crown. I have been doing a lot of cutting of the wind wheel design as of late because a lot of people, they like the design because it's a beautiful, brilliant cut, but yet it's a little bit different than the standard round brilliant or modified round brilliant. I have been dopping up a lot of the umbalite garnet that I got back in 2009 from Tanzania. Beautiful material, varies in the refractive index. Some of it's kind of a beautiful pinkish orange colored. Some of it's a golden pink color. It's just very unusual. All alluvial, which means it's water-worn material, like little pebbles that they find in the old riverbeds. But it cuts a beautiful gemstone. If you want to look on the website at Master Cut Gems, you'll see that I have cut some. I just finished an 8mm 3+ carat yesterday. That's more of the rhodolite family. I've got Mahenge spinels to cut. I've got the blue Tunduru Tanzanian spinels to cut. Got some sunstone from Oregon. Also cutting some unheated zircons from Tanzania as well. Cutting some blue topaz, the more the baby blue, and also the electric Swiss blue. It's really an inexpensive gemstone, but when you cut them well, it is a very shocking, pretty blue gemstone that will create you a piece of jewelry that's going to be very pretty, but not a lot of money tied up in it. I've already aligned the stone on the girdle to get everything back in proper order. I have gone in with a 600 steel lap and cut in the crown mains just to get the material out of the way and to also get everything lined back up. I am transferring now to a 1200 grit copper bonded lap. I charge my own laps with the 1200 Bort or diamond grit because it's just, I've had this same lap for over 20 years and I'm still using it. So, you know, it works. There's no sense in changing what really works and gives you a good finished product. After this, I will go and cut with or polish with the ceramic lap with 50,000 mesh diamond, and I'll use silicone oil as my lubricant for my base. I'll put a fine squirt on the ceramic lap, take a tissue, wipe off the majority of it, and then spray it with the 50,000 diamond mesh, and that will give me a very good polish ceramic on working with corundum, and I also use that with chrysoberyl. This is a Montana Sapphire that I probably got 7 or 8 years ago. It's unheated, it's a mint green. It's probably going to be somewhere in a 6.5mm round. It'll probably be a 1.25 carat to a 1.5 carat, depending on my crown angles I can get by with. I try to do my crown mains at 36 to 40 degrees. Lighter material, I can go a little steeper and it'll give a little more scintilation or sparkle off the crown facets. You can look on the website probably by Monday, and these things that I am cutting today and yesterday should be on there. I'll try to photograph Saturday because it's supposed to be pretty here, around 60 degrees. So I think that I've cut somewhere in the neighborhood of about 12 stones this week, and most everything I've cut in this week has been from rough and not recuts. So it should be interesting, and one day very soon we will start showing you how to look at rough and to grade it, as well as looking at gems that had the potential to be a good candidate for a recut. Okay, I've already cut the mains in with the 600 steel lap, and now I'm going back and lowering the crown mains to get my girdle thickness that I want, and to also remove the scratches from the prior wheel. Then after I finish cutting these, I'll go back and I'll do my brakes, and then I'll do my stars, and then I'll polish all those, and then I will go back and put my 45-degree on the mast, and then that's when I will cut my table and polish it. Then after that's finished, I'll look it over, make sure everything's correct. Then I'll take it out, heat it up with my alcohol lamp, soften the epoxy and pull it off, and hopefully I will have a very well cut, pretty mint green Montana Sapphire. I know it's funny, when I talk to some of my friends that cut, it would take them hours and hours to cut a stone, and I was like, what are you doing, guys? And of course, they never would tell you. They said, I'm doing the same thing you're doing, until they started watching me cut. And then they started screaming at me. It's like, my Lord, man, you're putting too much pressure on it. What are you doing? And I was like, my gosh, what are you guys doing? It's like, this is hardly no pressure at all. So, you know, when it was taking me an hour to cut and polish a pavilion, it was taking them 4.5 to 5 hours. I learned really quickly, and they did as well, that they were not putting enough pressure on it, and they were not cutting as quick as they could. So now they are cutting about 4 to 5 stones for every one they used to. So you really need to watch somebody do this, because you can read all the books in the world, and until you watch someone do it, you will not get the full grasp of it. I'm self-taught. No one wanted to teach me anything, but with the background of tool and die making in machine shop, it came in very handy as far as knowing speeds, angles, how much pressure you could put on things. And I'll try to say it and not spray it, but it's really not that hard once you get used to it. Rochelle, she's going to be starting to cut very soon. Hopefully next week we'll start showing her on the cabochon machine, so she will be able to show you how to cab a stone. And it's just all part of the lapidary arts. I think it's like painting by numbers, but you know, I've been doing it for almost 25 years, so it makes a big difference when you've been doing it as long as I have. Okay, well, girdle thickness is about correct. All the previous scratches are removed. So now it's time to go ahead and start cutting in the brake facets. So I'm cutting these at 40 degrees, so I'll go ahead and jump my brakes up to about 44 degrees. See what it looks like, see how far towards the table it will take me. And if everything looks well, we'll leave it at those angles. And I think they'll be fine. Looks like I got a lot of distance between the very top of the brake facet and where the table would be. So that gives me plenty of room to put in my star facets. So that shouldn't be a problem at all. And you just work your way around. This is like I said, this is a standard round brilliant with a modified coolant. I put a zircon coolant on it because it helps break up that 8-fold symmetry or that mirror imaging that you can get sometimes if you don't bring your pavilion brakes down far enough to the coolant. So it kind of helps you out a little bit on that. And you're just leveling out your girdle with this cut. I like the wind wheel cut. I think I have cut about 6 of them in the last week. So it's I've almost memorized that cut as far as the indexes and the angles to use. So it's a lot of repeatability. Of course, I'm using an Ultra-tec faceting machine on this one. I've got two facets, but I like my Ultra-tec a whole lot better than I do any that I've ever used. It's easier to recut stones with. It's just it's been a workhorse machine. It too is about 20 years old, so it's been a good, faithful tool. And you're pretty much watching, this is pretty much how fast I cut on every stone, unless I'm doing some kind of complicated cut that I've got to do some math with, and a little extra concentration of watching how the facets float into each other. I used to have an indicator on this, but I took it off because it slowed me down. I was watching the dial instead of watching the facet. Okay, so that right there, I have cut in all the breaks in a pre-polish. Now I will go back to the star facets. All the break facets. Now I will go in and cut the star facets, which are the facets that will join or meet at the table. And these will be at somewhere around 20 degrees. So I cut in my crown mains at 40. This is a little higher crowned because it's a lighter stone. 44 degrees on the break facets, and then I'll go in at about 20 degrees and cut in the star facets. After I finish the star facets, I'll go back and I will polish it all out. Then I will cut and polish the table and the gemstone. I'm cutting the stars in. The star facets, the ones that join the table. I'm going to put them at 25 degrees. Let me touch off. Do a little flat, check it out, see where I'm at. Pretty close. There's 8 of those. And they will touch the very top part of the break facet on the crown, and will be the part that lines up with the flat of the table. And I've cut so many of these, I don't have to look up any indexes or anything like that, because I know what they are, because I probably cut well over 1,000 round briggings. So it's just a memory thing. And that's it. Excuse me. I'll sling the water off. I'll pick up my RPM, sling the water off. Then I'll come back and I'll get my ceramic lap. It's already been charged. It's already had a little dose of silicone on it. So then I will go back to my original 40 degrees that I started off doing my mains. I'll tighten it in at 40 degrees. Now I'll put it on about 7. Don't use any water on polishing this. I'll use a little water on the other gemstones on a 10 lead lap or the bat lap, but on this I let my silicone, the remnants of that, be my lubricant, and do the 50,000 diamond spray. And you don't need a lot. And that's polished. It doesn't take long. Maybe give it a little bit more, just to make sure. Yep, that's good. Index around to 12. Check it. Good. Go to the next one. Good. Go to the next one. So see, this really does not take a long time. Unless you've got a contaminated lap where you are picking up scratches from something that should not be on your lap, this moves very quickly. A lot of people don't like polishing corundum, but to me it's one of the easiest. Unless you have a large facet, like a large table, then it can be a little bit on the nightmarish side, but small stone like 6.5, 7 millimeter, it goes very fast and it's very rewarding. Okay, well that is all of your 8 mains polished. So the next thing we'll go to is 44 degrees, which is what I cut in my brakes at. This is a 96 index, so I'll be starting it off at 3. Move this away where I won't be hitting the spindle. Might want to give it a little light blast. Try not to breathe when I spray that. Polishing. Okay, that's good for now. And once I have known that I'll count. Since I know that it's taking maybe 5 or 6 rotations back and forth, and it gives me my full polish to keep, or to, since I am a production cutter, to save time and to keep redundant looking, normally what I'll do is I'll just look at this. It's like, okay, that's a good polish. Then I'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'll look at it. Is it good? Is it going to be any better with any more? If not, I was like, okay, we'll just try 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I know the pressure that I'm putting on it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, well I've finished 3 like that. Now let me look at those 3. They all look very good. No spots missing on the facet. It doesn't have a polish, so I'll start it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 6, 7, 8. And I'll do about 3 at a time and then look at it. That way I can see if it's still polishing, and if it is, I know I do not have to recharge my lap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I know how much pressure I'm putting on it. It's the same pressure each time. A lot of people say I'm heavy-handed, but it gets the job done, and I'm not crushing the gemstones on the lap, so evidently I'm not pushing too hard, and I'm not pushing so hard that I'm breaking my epoxy bond. So evidently I may be pushing the threshold, but I'm not damaging the stone or the lap. Okay, those brakes are all polished. So next thing to do is go back to my 25 degrees, go to where my star facets would be, which is 6, 18, and 30. Move it in a little bit just for the heck of it. Give it a little spritz, touch off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and see if I'm going too far. Nope, looks good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And these are even smaller facets, so they should even polish faster. And they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, 6 is enough. Because on this particular lap ceramic with diamond, if you push too hard, you will actually cut your facet even deeper. So you can over polish. You want your points to meet exactly or very, very close. And sometimes I will float in facets with this particular lap from the prior 1200 not being quite to the point it needs to be. I'll take it even further with this polishing. That way I can float my facet in and polish it all at the same time. So it does save time. That's like cutting in your little zircon coolant facets. I very seldom, unless it's a huge stone, I very seldom ever cut them in with the pre-polish lap. I usually will polish that particular facet in itself. Saves time and it keeps me from overcutting. Okay, that's done. So this particular crown is finished. It's time to transfer to the 45-degree or tabling adapter. It's at 45 degrees, so you will set your index or your caliper dial at 45 degrees. So that 45 on that, take this out of the quill. I usually remember what end my angle is at. This is at 3, this came out, it was at 3 o'clock. In case I ever have to line it back up in case I mess up something. And then this goes on here. You'll line it up and you'll bring it down to where it touches. Then you will lock it in. So this 45 degrees here and 45 degrees here will give me a 90 degrees, which is what you want for that flat table. Okay. Then you will slide this in here, lock it down, pull the ceramic off. Put your pre-polished 1200 because you don't have hardly any to take off. I moved everything up almost to where the original flat was made when I created the table for the first cut. So wet it down, touch it off. It will squeal with you. Well, looks like most all the previous scratches are gone. Everything looks good. It's moved down to the point where it needs to be on the star facets. Sling the water off of it. Cut it off. Put the ceramic lap back on. Watch your ears. Got it? Picking up any scratches. You use this like a mirror and you'll let the light reflect off of it like a mirror. When you do that mirror, you can see if there's any microscopic or reflective scratches. So when you don't see any, and you make sure you don't have any haze or zoning to where your facet's not being polished all the way across, you're finished. That's finished. Next step on this is to heat it up with the lamp, alcohol lamp, after I put everything back together. And normally I will go ahead and take my ceramic lamp back off since I won't be using it for anything next. That way it doesn't get contaminated. I don't drop anything off and chip it because they're about $300 now. a far cry from the $80 they were when I first bought that lap 20 some years ago. So what I'll do is I'll take it and I'll heat the stone up, rotate it around, getting the epoxy soft. You'll see it start to turn yellow. And then I'll take this to keep from burning the crap out of my fingers. And normally what I do while I'm at it, I'll peel the epoxy off. Take my little X-Acto knife blade, heat it up, heat the dop up, and cut all the epoxy out. That way it's ready for the next time I get ready to do a transfer. I don't have junk in it that I got to clean up. If you do this every time you finish a stone, when you need it and you go to get it, it's ready and you haven't got to be farting around with it while your epoxy's drying or something or curing and get yourself in a bind. So that's clean, ready, so it goes back over there. By that time, usually this is cooled off enough to where you can peel the remaining amount of epoxy off, and then you have a finished gemstone. And outside it's got a little secondary blue to it, so it's what I would consider a fine green with a secondary blue. The little open coolant that is probably less than a millimeter really doesn't show up at all. It'll show up in the macro shot, but it will not show up in your mount at all. So actually it's a very beautiful stone. So it turned out much prettier than I thought it was going to be in the rough. But you know, it's giving you an opportunity to see things as I see them, from the rough to the cut. And it turned out to be a beautiful stone. Make a lovely engagement ring for some lady. Or make even a nice man's ring stone, because it's going to be tough and it's kind of a masculine color. It could go either way. Beautiful stone. Okay. Beautiful. We was at the faceting machine and we was doing some guesstimating. We knew that it was 6.5 millimeters in diameter, and it started out at 6.23 in the rough, and it had some rough areas and some odd shapes to it. Its finished weight on this particular gem is 1.535, which is going to give us about a 25% yield, which is not bad for the way this thing was shaped, and it had some fractures and odd shapes that we had to work around. So all in all, I'm very pleased with the turnout of the gem. It is a good green, mini. Don't see much blue at all. It has good scintilation because we did go higher on the crown mains, which throws everything a little bit higher and gives you a little bit more scintillation or light return off the crown facets. So all in all, it's a pretty nice gem. So this one will be photographed along with the others that I've cut in this past week tomorrow, and we'll see what it looks like on the website. So thanks a lot, and you got to see the same thing that I see every time I cut a gemstone. Have a lovely day.